In the scorching heat of Egypt's Valley of the Kings, archaeologist Howard Carter stood at a crossroads in 1922. For nearly 6 long years, he had been digging through the desert sand, searching for what many believed did not exist, an undiscovered pharaoh's tomb. His sponsor, the wealthy British aristocrat Lord Carnarvon, was losing patience and money. The First World War had drained his finances, and Carter's relentless excavations had yielded nothing but disappointment and frustration. By this point, Carter had excavated almost every inch of the valley except for one final triangular area near the entrance to the tomb of Ramesses VI. Most Egyptologists believe the valley had been thoroughly explored and all its secrets revealed. But Carter refused to accept defeat or give up hope. He pleaded with Carnarvon for one more season, promising this would be his final request. Carnarvon, despite his serious doubts, agreed to fund one last season of digging. Carter knew this was his final chance to fulfill a dream he had pursued since arriving in Egypt as a 17-year-old boy. He assembled his team of experienced Egyptian workers and began what would become the most important archaeological dig of the 20th century. The clock was ticking, and the Egyptian sun beat down mercilessly on the hopeful archaeologist who refused to give up on his lifelong dream of discovering a royal tomb. After years of fruitless searching in Egypt's Valley of the Kings, Howard Carter's perseverance finally paid off on November 4th, 1922. Early that morning, a young water boy working for Carter's excavation team accidentally struck something hard beneath the sand with his tool. Carter rushed over immediately and began carefully brushing away the debris with his hands. To his growing amazement, he uncovered the edge of a stone step carved directly into the bedrock of the valley floor. Then another step appeared, and another below it. His heart pounding with excitement, Carter ordered his workers to continue excavating with extreme care. By the end of that momentous day, 12 stone steps had been revealed, leading down into the earth and ending at a sealed doorway. The plastered door bore the precious seal of the royal necropolis, the jackal and 9 captives, a clear indication that something of great importance lay beyond. But there was a problem. The seals did not identify which pharaoh's tomb this might be. Carter's mind raced with possibilities and questions. Despite his overwhelming desire to break through immediately, he made one of the most difficult decisions of his life. He ordered the entire stairway to be carefully refilled with rubble and sent an urgent telegram to Lord Carnarvon in England. The message was simple but electrifying. Have made wonderful discovery in Valley. A magnificent tomb with seals intact. Await your arrival. The discovery was simply too significant to explore without his patron present. After 3 weeks of anxious waiting, Howard Carter's patron Lord Carnarvon finally arrived from England with his daughter Lady Evelyn. Carter had discovered mysterious steps leading to a sealed doorway in the Valley of the Kings, but had been waiting patiently to explore further. On November 26, 1922, the team gathered at the site with electric anticipation. They cleared the stairway once more and stood before the ancient plastered door. Carter noticed something he had missed before, faint traces of the name Tutankhamun on some of the seal impressions. Could this be the tomb of the obscure boy pharaoh who had ruled Egypt over 3,000 years ago? With Carnarvon and his daughter watching intently, Carter picked up his tools. He carefully chiseled a small hole in the upper left corner of the sealed entrance, just large enough to peer through. He inserted a candle through the opening first to test for poisonous gases, a real danger in sealed tombs. The flame flickered but remained lit, indicating the air was safe. As his eyes slowly adjusted to the darkness within, Carter leaned forward and peered through the hole. What he saw made him freeze in stunned silence. Lord Carnarvon, standing behind him in the dim passage with his daughter, could wait no longer. He asked anxiously, "Can you see anything?" Carter's reply would become one of the most famous sentences in archaeological history. Yes, he finally whispered, his voice trembling with emotion, "Wonderful things." Before them lay a chamber filled with golden treasures that had remained untouched and hidden from the world for more than 3 millennia. Inside the tomb Howard Carter had just opened in Egypt's Valley of the Kings, a stunning and almost overwhelming sight awaited the excavation team. The antechamber, measuring roughly 12 by 8 feet, was packed from floor to ceiling with objects of incredible beauty and immense historical value. 3 magnificent ritual couches shaped like mythological animals, a lion, a cow, and a strange composite creature, dominated one side of the room. Their gilded surfaces gleamed in the lamplight, and their inlaid glass eyes seemed to watch the intruders who had disturbed their 3,000-year vigil. Dismantled chariots covered entirely in hammered gold leaf were carefully stacked against the walls. Alabaster vases of exquisite craftsmanship, elegant chairs made of ebony inlaid with ivory, and ornate boxes encrusted with precious stones and colored glass were scattered throughout the chamber. 2 life-size wooden statues of a young king, covered in black resin and dressed in gold, stood guard like silent sentinels on either side of the room. The statues wore golden sandals and carried maces and staffs, frozen in their protective stance. Carter and his team stood speechless, overwhelmed by the magnitude of their discovery. But what caught Carter's attention most powerfully was another sealed doorway on the far wall of the chamber, flanked by those 2 guardian statues. This had to be the entrance to the actual burial chamber where the pharaoh's mummy would rest. Unlike every other royal tomb found in the valley, this one had not been completely plundered and destroyed by ancient grave robbers. Carter realized with growing excitement that they had found something unprecedented in the history of Egyptology, a royal tomb that was still largely intact after 3,000 years. After spending nearly 3 months meticulously cataloging and photographing thousands of precious items from the antechamber, Howard Carter's team finally prepared to open the sealed burial chamber. On February 17, 1923, when an audience of invited dignitaries and officials watching, they carefully dismantled the sealed doorway. Inside stood an enormous gilded wooden shrine that nearly filled the entire burial chamber, leaving only a narrow corridor around it. The shrine walls were covered with religious texts and protective symbols designed to safeguard the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. When they painstakingly dismantled this first shrine over many weeks, They discovered 3 more shrines nested inside like elaborate Russian dolls, each more ornate and precious than the last. Within the innermost shrine, covered in sheet gold, lay a massive rectangular stone sarcophagus made of yellow quartzite. The sarcophagus was so heavy that Carter's team had constructed a sophisticated pulley system from wooden beams to lift its enormous granite lid. Inside the sarcophagus were 3 anthropoid coffins, each fitting perfectly within the other in a stunning display of ancient craftsmanship. The outer 2 coffins were made of gilded wood covered in intricate hieroglyphic inscriptions and beautiful religious scenes, showing gods welcoming the young pharaoh. But the innermost coffin took everyone's breath away when they finally revealed it. It was made entirely of solid gold, weighing over 240 pounds, an almost unimaginable treasure. When they finally and very carefully lifted the heavy golden lid, they came face to face with one of archaeology's most iconic and unforgettable images. A magnificent golden death mask covered the wrapped face of the mummy, depicting the young pharaoh Tutankhamun with inlaid eyes of quartz and obsidian that seemed almost alive in the flickering lamplight. Howard Carter's remarkable discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922 revolutionized our understanding of ancient Egypt and captured the world's imagination like no archaeological find before or since. This was the first and remains the only pharaoh's tomb ever found in the Valley of the Kings that had not been thoroughly plundered and stripped bare by ancient grave robbers. Over the next 10 painstaking years, Carter and his dedicated team carefully documented, preserved, and removed over 5,000 individual objects from the tomb's chambers. Each artifact, from the grandest golden throne to the smallest jar of perfumed oil, provided invaluable and previously unknown insights into Egyptian royal life, religious beliefs, and burial customs from over 3,000 years ago. The exquisite golden death mask alone, weighing 24 pounds of solid gold inlaid with precious stones, has become perhaps the most recognizable and iconic symbol of ancient Egypt in the entire world. Ironically, Tutankhamun himself was a relatively minor and insignificant pharaoh who died unexpectedly at around 18 or 19 years old and ruled for fewer than 10 years during a tumultuous period of Egyptian history. His tomb was actually quite modest by royal standards, hastily prepared, and much smaller than those built for more powerful rulers. If this minor king's burial contains such incredible splendor and wealth, historians can only imagine with wonder what magnificent treasures must have filled the much larger tombs of truly powerful pharaohs like Ramesses the Great or Seti I before robbers destroyed them in antiquity. Carter's unwavering dedication, his refusal to accept defeat, and his painstaking archaeological methods transformed Tutankhamun from an obscure and forgotten ancient king into one of the most famous and recognizable figures in all of human history. The boy king's extraordinary legacy lives on powerfully today, continuing to inspire wonder, fascination, and scholarly research nearly a full century after Howard Carter first peered through that hole and whispered about the wonderful things he could see.